Okay, we are back in action here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a new NSL live talk. You don't have to hide the screen there, Gary. We
I'll
we
try to
was
make it. I'll try to
eventually
make it a mystery.
Gary Smith from Qatar. Um, Before we go into the most favorite topic at the moment, of course, I want to mention a little happy story, which is really cool because on the last NSL live talk with Joey, I think it was Joey Marshall, I was whining, that I cannot, that I'm always stopped by Zoom after 40 minutes, and I cannot afford buying more time because the NSL doesn't have the budget, blah blah. Believe it or not, but after this pitching, somebody signed up with a $20, as a $20 per month patron, and I'm very grateful. Mr. Kumar Ray is the name, and I want to say thank you. That was really cool, Kumar. And it hopefully encourages other people to do the same thing, and
Yeah, oh, that's
oh,
fantastic to hear, Kurt. And
yeah.
obviously, I hope that, I mean, we all can make it work. We love the NSL, we use it. Coaches for sure, competitors, we all look at stats, we look at scores, we look at videos. So I think we can all dig into our pockets and help out. So I think we just all have to look in the mirror and we can find the money to help you. So yeah,
I
and
didn't
then
mean
I think that's a great contribution from him to do that. You know.
and I didn't mean to make this a promotional video here or so, but once in a while it's good to remind people
Kurt,
about.
why not? I would say, come on.
Yeah.
I know it's always you humble sitting there behind, but we all value it and whatever, and we can all dig into our pockets. That's there's no doubt.
Well, thank you very much, Gary, for saying that, and I appreciate it. And we'll see. We continue doing what we're doing anyway because we love it, and I love it, and I love to talk to the people, especially to the people who know what they're talking about. And at this point in time,
That's not me. That's not me.
well, more than me, because one
I
thing is
don't
for
know.
sure, what we're talking about right now, I have never been there. So this level is an unknown level for me, while you have been on this level and you have brought people to that level, of the topic that the topic is Arizona airspeed, of course, at the moment.
Yeah.
So I listen carefully, and it's fascinating to me, and it is always what I wanted, what I had dreamt of doing one day, only jumping four-way and getting to the highest level on it. Well, it was simply not possible for me, whether it was talent, logistics, location, whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never got there. So I love to listen to it, but it gets to a point where I can hardly identify with this any longer of you because it's on a level that is just so far away from us, the recreational four-way competitors. And then there come people, the world champions, Joey Marshall, Christopher Kuhlmann, and they now have to recruit some of the people like me. I mean, no, not me, but who are
I would have
active.
taken you, Kurt.
Yeah, well, I'm always applying every time there's an open slot at airspeed. Oh, I did. I apply, but they never select me. Anyway, so now that's happening right now. So they are selecting again some people who are coming from a totally different level of experience, talent, skills, and so forth and so forth. How do they do that?
Well, you know what? There's different ways to look at it, and I don't want to go. I mean, let's follow one from Joey, and I think Joey him and Chris obviously sat down, and I remember you speaking to them on the beach after the World Meet, and they were very mature about what they were going to do. They had their process, they had their steps. They were going to look at certain people. They knew what they were looking for, and in the US, you can be a little bit more picky, and you need less luck in a way. Where as you go to, I think one of you guys mentioned, when you go to Belgium, you have
Hmm.
to be military, and you don't have this big pool, this dive pool of people that you can then find which is the right guys. But what Joey and Chris have done is they've chosen two individuals that they feel, forget the talent. The talent will come. They know that these guys can skydive. They're good enough to get to a certain point. In fact, some of the stuff I've heard is phenomenal already about what people speak about these two. But what they've done is they've chosen people that they think when it gets down to those hot days in Arizona or North Carolina, the cold or whatever you want, when there's four of us together, the only way you get out on the top and the only way you become a world champion is when four heads and five with the video are working together. And if there's a little bit of headbutting, you're not going to make it to the top. And it can be that one person who's just a personality that you don't get on with. And I promise you, from a coaching point of view, you see it. When I walked around at a world meet with Hayabusa in the days, we would look at an airspeed or a French team, or even the Russians, and you could see the camaraderie, the friendship, how good and happy they were, or was it an act? We're all waiting for one person. We hear, you could see it. And eventually some of the Hayabusa guys will come to me and they'd say, oh, that team looks very unhappy. And I promise you, it plays out in the results. And we had it with I'm not saying Hayabusa was a smooth ride. We also had some roller coaster hiccups in the Hayabusa 10, 12 years. But it's how you deal with it. And obviously, I know I'm running on a long way here, but with what Joey and Chris have done is they've chosen people that they think when it gets done, any marriage is never great. You have to make it work, but you must like the person that you're fighting with, you know? And if you don't like them from the start and certain things annoy you, it's not going to work.
It's interesting because, there are the other examples too, which are probably exceptions then, because there were some times which are quite turbulent with the Golden Knights in the older days. Then, I mean, the Land Magic was not really a smooth ride.
Yes. Yeah.
All the time. You had to file a little bit on your personalities or whatever it was. I don't know, but you have your own experiences with that.
Yes. I mean, the Golden Knights, I can't speak much for, but we all know where there was little hiccups in the last 10, 15 years of them in an eight way. Recently with the XPG, the XP and the amalgamation and the flying together, I can't get too much involved with that. But I think with the Golden Knights, they took it as a military approach. This is your job. This is what you do. You keep quiet and you get to work, and that's it. And I think, yes, you can survive that in a military world, and they were all military discipline. In the Qatar world that we have, these guys have gone into the military very short. And like I've just heard, within 2 months, the guys that we have now, the Lions and Cheetahs, were put into the skydiving team. So they don't really have a military discipline. They don't really always understand that being on time is one of the most important and respectful things you can show your teammates. Arriving late every day is the most disrespectful thing, and that can irritate. But for the Deland Magic thing, is I think we were just, yes, we had strong personalities, and we did have, I think it's no secret, we know that we had arguments in the team that in between a day's jumping, we would go into the team room, shut the door, and it would be a huge argument. But we were so goal driven that we could come out of it, and yes, we were irritated with each other and at each other, but we could open the door, go out and jump. And because we're so goal driven, we forgot about the small things, but we did all do our best to try and nurse it. And I'd say that's where the next thing goes with Joey and Chris and any team. You've brought on a new member thinking that this is the nicest guy, because you don't really know him that well. And you can say, I've done one jumping camp with him. I've done 30 or 50 jumps, but that's nothing when you're going to go and do thousands. And you're going to be in this wind tunnel, and he's going to become late. And then his girlfriend interferes with this, and this happens, and that happens. And I promise you, I've had it all, and I've seen it all. But if you can sit down with that person and maturely go through how are we going to fix it, and everyone, including yourself, can compromise in the direction of achieving your goal, your team goal, then I think that, then you're on your way to success. But if you butt heads and you walk away and you say, I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to work, then it's done. Then I'd go, eventually you're not going to get as high as you could go. Yes, you might win because maybe there is no French-Russian Hayabusa team.
But isn't there also always kind of some kind of a risk? I mean, let's say when you go out on a date with a new girl that you have met, or so now you're playing. I mean, you're presenting yourself in the best way you can, and all the skeletons in the
Oh,
closet and
hidden.
other issues you leave them you leave them at home.
I hope you're not speaking from experience, Kurt.
We all do, don't we?
No.
So,
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. Although I've heard very good things about these new guys, um, from not only Chris and Joey, it's from outsiders as well. And I'm sure they shopped around. If they were
yeah.
smart enough, which I know they are, they would have asked other people's opinions on these guys, not about the skydiving. I wouldn't even ask about the skydiving. I'd ask about what type of character, does he listen? Can he take criticism? And how? And of course, eventually he's going to own that slot, and he's going to say, no, this is how it should be done. I feel better this way. And then you have to accept what he's doing. But in the beginning, as they learned through Mikel and Nicholas, bringing them up, eventually now they're going to be pushing, they're going to be sailing this boat, they're going to be captain of that ship. But eventually you have to give them, should be 4 equal captains driving that ship, on the technique side. I don't forget the cameraman, but I'm going, they're going to be calling the shots. And then eventually Doug and Alison are going to be taking over and saying, no, I want to do it this way. This is the way to do it. And that's when it becomes a little bit difficult. That's when it starts to become difficult, when everybody's got their own way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and especially Joey and Chris are a great example for that. I mean, Nicholas and especially Nicholas and Mikhail, they said that, they benefited actually from new input that came from Joey and Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know how many people, in our community are really aware of this, that you really own your slot as an individual eventually.
You have to.
Nobody can tell you how you do it. I mean, you have to find your way, or
Yeah.
your piece has to find, some way.
Yeah, and every team is slightly. I mean, that's why for me you love coaching, is because you end up, no matter which team you do, you can't always give the same technique for every block.
Exactly.
You've got to look at your individuals and go, we have to shortcut this, or we have to do this more, or this needs a little bit more of this or that. So that's what makes a block 11, coaching a block 11 or 13 for me different. If you try and achieve the same pictures and the same stuff, but with different people, you have to coach it differently, because some people are not as talented, or their body frames and
Body
and
frame.
the, and the piece partner is also different. You put, like, if I go back to Hayabusa, if you have an Andy and a Dennis on the front pair, they could go as quick as anything, and the back pair could not match it. So then all of a sudden you have to go, guys, we need to maybe rotate you guys a bit more and less on the back, or. And that's, to me, at the top level, that becomes every team's own. You own your own block 21s or own 11s, as each individual in the team has to own their own slot. If it's not too confusing.
You mentioned earlier that like in a country like Belgium, you're limited because there are only, I don't know, 10 million people living, and then you're limited with the military forces, which they are. But then at the same time, they had Michele Silvi, from Italy, who they
Yeah,
invited, and it worked out eventually. Now they won the world championship
yeah,
with a guy that they picked randomly from just because they thought he's the best. We need him. So
yeah. But
this
he was on the Mikey side. He was in the how can I say it, in view for a long time. We kind of had him in the binoculars. We knew him and we watched him, and he kind of knew there was an interest.
from the
And I think
Italian team, Amnesia, right?
yes,
So for people to
yes, and even Airspeed had an interest in him. I think he went out to Arizona and just to show himself there. He was ready to give up everything and become a world champion, whether it was with USA or Belgium or whatever. That was his goal.
hmm.
And Hayabusa knew it. So that was an easier one because he was a great tunnel flyer. He did not have that many jumps. I think he only had 800 jumps over 10 years,
But
you know,
just the
but
logistics
he was
of
a
it.
tunnel.
I mean, it contradicts a little bit, the limitations that because apparently they find shortcuts too if they,
Yes.
so
Yeah,
they
yeah.
go out of their.
And to go to what you said, you never know if your choice is correct, and how you choose it. The difference with Mikey is that the time limit, the time constraint was no problem with Mikey. They kind of knew the change was coming and this was going to happen then. But with Ray, unfortunately, it was Mikey who also created the problem on the flip side, on the other side of it, because Mikey was the one that quit straight after Voss, round 10, and that was in October, August, September, and they had to have military. They had to have a team by December.
Mhm.
For that team to continue, they have to have a player. So they had 2 months to find somebody, and then they had to go and look in Belgium. What do we have? Where do we have? Who can we find a French person? There was many things going, but eventually they had to go. Well, and now who do we
Ah,
have? We only have three guys.
oh,
We had to
so
look
they
at
looked
three
across
guys.
the border there too. They
Well,
took a
yes, I don't
look.
know. Yes, I mean, but you're in a panic because your boss. I mean, the boss said to them, "Okay, but by December we need to put the names down because if that doesn't get cleared through the military channels, and that's it, you're a three-way, you're not a team, and then you
Yeah,
lose your top sport, you lose everything." So that was a bit of a problem. But if it was USA, they would have found somebody. They would have found somebody at a higher level than what Ray is, as ASP did. I mean, I know Allison, Doug Hendricks. I have seen before. I haven't officially, I think, met him, but I know him. But they had to go look at. But their dive pool was bigger and wider, and there is more talent there. So they had the luxury of doing it. And I must be honest, I think Hayabusa has been very lucky with Ray as a personality. He's a super nice guy. He's sporty. He's going to outrun you. He's going to outfight you if you do fight. I always suggest to them, don't fight with that guy over a block because he's going to take them out.
he's gonna throw you to the ground
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. He's a champion, jiu-jitsu champion. Um, and then but his character fits in. Yes, he's very quiet, and he seems he's shy for sure, but eventually he'll come out of his shell. He's already asking me some questions on this and that, which I like. I think that's what it should be, starting to enjoy his slot more. But he's come from a very, very long way. He's come from, like I said, they picked him up almost off AFF. He'd done a four-way competition at a two average, not in a rookie class, I think it was, or whatever class it was, the two. So
Yeah, amazing. I think they made a good choice there, obviously,
yeah,
so they know too what they're doing. So that's an amazing thing because uh, going back to the beginning, to the first question, how do you do it? You have to have a feeling, kind of, it's like almost like a
yeah,
fingertip feeling about the person that you're picking. There is a risk.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's always a risk, and I think, like you said, it goes at this level. It becomes so professional that you have to look around you. As most coaches do, you look at other sports, and of course, here in Europe, and also in the US now, it's growing big. I mean, in the US, is all football and basketball is the big ones, but even soccer is getting bigger there. But you look at the soccer teams now in soccer, even in the Premier League. If I go in the UK, all those players are good. All those players are good. Yes, you have some superstars, but they are only superstars because the other guys are giving them the ball to score. And you only think of the good guys as the guys that score the goals. It's like the 3-point shooters in basketball. Steph Curry's super good, but it's the guys around him that also make him good. And where I was going with it is I go, if the soccer players are all very, very good at a high level, but it's the team that gels together the most, that like each other. And when they're training, they have fun and they don't only go there and think, this is my job. I'm only here for 3 hours today and I'm out. They do the extra. They like it. They enjoy each other's company. And I think that's what makes the difference in skydiving in our sport. Let's call it amateur professional, as much as we can, as professional as we can be. in our sport. That's what makes the difference at the top level. And yes, it's a risk when you choose someone because it's not that easy to kick someone out and bring and replace. Maybe in the US, but in other teams, I mean, look at France. France also struggled at stages to get this team together. And I don't want to ask the question, if one of the friends stopped, yes, they could probably find somebody in their academy to pick up. But other than that, they're also going to go back down again.
Back down of in age, for sure. So that, the junior level is what more and more people seem to be looking at, except for, I mean, I don't know the age exactly of Allison and Doug, but I
Mm-mm.
believe they are not really in their early 20s anyhow.
No,
So airspeed is going a little bit on the older side on average age now.
yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
but again, you have to choose. I mean, if you think if they're mid to late 20s, then they've still got 10, 12 years in them. And they're
mhm.
not gonna, I don't think
Yeah.
right now there's not many teams, our sports not professional enough, unless you're military, that you can go through. Like a Hayabusa, like a Golden Knights, French Federation supported. There is some background stuff in there that people can go longer. You can find a job in the French Federation later.
Mhm. No, it becomes more and more like a time frame as it is in other sports like soccer.
Yes.
They have a time frame of like 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
There are exceptions, but then the body gets weaker, or the interest, or the euphorism, or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
gets
Well, that's where I say that's the pity about our sport is that people are not making a living off it. As a true competitor. Yes, you become a competitor, you become great, then you become a coach. But
mhm,
that's where it goes. But imagine if you could make money as a competitor,
right.
then we'd have more people come, more competitors come, and then I'd go, then we professional. But right now, you're only skydiving as much to become a champion if that's your desire. You get the champion and then you stop. I mean, look at Mikey in a way. He became a world champion for with Hayabusa, and then he pulled out because he didn't want to continue because he felt he was losing the rest of his life. You know,
Which was another about 10-year time frame. Interesting. So
yeah,
we will
yeah,
see Joey and Chris are just kind of completing their decade. It's almost
yeah,
exactly a decade that they have been in the sport on a competitive level, and they're going
right,
beyond that from now on, which was normal
yeah,
for Niklas and Mikael. They were in the same situation.
yeah, yeah.
So the let's look at the logistics, which is interesting too, because they are a little bit restricted now for with Allison, because he has to be immigrated, naturalized, green cards, all kind of things are coming at them, and
Yeah,
we have FAI ISC events coming up next year. Um, they seem to have a plan somehow to work with substitutes, alternates.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I think, I mean, Nicholas Hemlin will step right in. I don't know Nicholas's exact agenda. Nicholas or Mikhail, I'm sure will help out. Where need be. I mean, it's a family. It's an airspeed family. That whole airspeed regime out there is fantastic. They will all help each other where need be. As long as they're not competing against each other, you know. But I think even if Nicholas was coaching at a certain indoor event, I'm talking not outdoor, indoor, I'm sure he would quite easily plug in there, and they would be, right there with the French. But as soon as they pick up the new guys with Allison, it's going to be a different ball game for them. But I think it's also a nice challenge. It's fun to go to a meet where you're not expected to win and you're the underdog. It's actually nice, when there's always pressure on you in the champion that you have to. If they score 24, we have to score 24 or more. You
hmm.
know, but I think with the I mean, Solly and I went through that whole, and there's been more people as well that have gone through that whole green card process. And unfortunately, I don't think there's too many shortcuts. So at least there wasn't in our day. We had a year to make sure that when we got to the US Nationals, that we had the green card with us, or at least the paperwork. When we had to show Mary Lou, we had to fax it to her in those days, or whatever, get it to her, that she knew that they did not go send us to a world meet, and we were not resident in the US, that we were not legal. And I wish more countries would just follow the rules like they do. I know that there are people doing it outside, and they turn a blind eye as to whether someone is actually resident in the country, and I think it's a little bit unfair if Ellison can't represent USA because of this rule, but other countries allow their competitors to do it. And we shouldn't only just look at the US and say, yeah, they're trying to win a gold medal, so he shouldn't do it. We should actually say, hey, this is the rule, or get rid of the rule. It's another debate point, is that if we have the rules, it should apply to everyone, and not that some federations turn their nose away and they don't look at it.
Yeah, I mean, we have this same again if we're looking at other sports, where it seems to be pretty easy for the German national team to get somebody who comes from a different country.
Yeah.
I mean, in soccer or in any other sports, on the club level, it's easy anyway, but on the national level, there is you mentioned Nicholas, but is there not a conflict of interest if you look at it? I mean, can he step into? He's coaching the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights want to become the next world champions in 4-way. So if isn't
but
that
it would depend on Nicholas himself, of course, and the airspeed approach to him, and how he left airspeed, and I think they respect it, and I have to be honest, that would be a big conflict, having thinking it of that way. But the thing is, only one team can go to I'm talking about the FAI World Meet. I think the US Nationals, yes, Ellison has to be there. They might say it has to have a green card by the time. For us, it was at the Nationals. At the qualifying meet, you must be a green card holder, not at the World Meet. Because you're competing against fellow US competitors, and to be eligible, you must have your green card or your residency.
That's the same.
I remember in my, if that's still the same, then yes, he has to have it before February, right? Because isn't that the
indoor? No, it's the outdoor. Yeah, they're looking at outdoor. Indoor, they need a substitute, no doubt.
And then indoor. That's where I was going. Indoor in April is they're going to need someone.
Yeah.
So and then
the
US Nationals outdoor. It depends for me. I mean, yes, you could plug Nicholas in there, but would they beat the Golden Knights with Nicholas and Doug and the Golden Knights? I don't think so. Not that I don't take anything away from Nicholas, but because I don't think Nicholas.
But they cannot do it. I mean, that's the trouble. They have to win the US Nationals if they want to go to the World Championship. So
but they just need. I mean, hopefully the immigration attorneys have given them a time frame of it will be done by this date.
It should be okay by then. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I have to be honest, and no disrespect to any of them, they kept their same slots, Chris and Joey. So it would just be a case of how quickly does Doug slot in. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but slotting at a high average to beat the Golden Knights, consistency on everything over 10 jumps is not that simple. So they need jump numbers. I was listening to the thing on Joey all about, the gelling together of everybody. That's all fine, but you need the jump numbers. We have to remember when Joey and Chris joined, they did a lot of jumps. In the first year, I think they hammered the jumps out in Arizona.
But they have the Hill, they have the Hill family. So I don't think there will be a lack of, if they want to jump like hell. I'm sure
but then they have to make it work, number one. And then number two, if you pulled in Nicholas, I don't think Nicholas wants to go and make so many jumps. That's one of the reasons you stop, is to give yourself spare time to build the rest of your next career, So I don't think Nicholas is going to say, I can do 5 training camps. He's going to say, well, I can do 10 days, 100 jumps. Pretty lucky,
No, that's one of those little risks or chances that they took. They have to. They believe strongly, and I think they're right with that, that the green card will be in place and ready for the US Nationals. But if not, that's trouble. Then I don't think they
So the Golden Knights will be slowing down all immigration when we get the military in, a new minister in the Trump cabinet. is assigned by the Golden Knights to
Gary,
slow down
that's
all
bad.
immigration. No, I'm joking. But that should be, hey, if I was the Golden Knights, I would follow that route. Slow down all immigration. No, they're
Yeah,
not going
not
to
in the
follow that.
team. They're nice guys. They
I
want the
know.
competition. They want, that. So that's a
Yeah,
community as we know it.
yeah.
So Gary, I cannot believe it's happening again, but we're already down to less than 5 minutes here. So slowly we have to come to its end. And I have not upgraded yet, and I still need a few more
There you go. There you go.
supporters anyway to make that happen. But the time limit is still here. But so what's going on in Qatar at the moment?
You know what, Kurt? Luke and I flew in last night, and we are doing lions and cheetahs. We started a jumping camp here. It's kind of it's not a hardcore camp at all. It's 2 weeks of, I would say, holiday, no, but the guys are staying at home, which is a novelty for them. Normally, they're always on a training camp. You're always staying out. And so they stay at home. We go very, very early in the morning. We're on the drop zone at like 6 tomorrow, take off at 6:40. But it's so busy, and unfortunately, the aircraft is not that arranged. The manifest system. We're supposed to have two twin otters flying. Skydive Qatar, two military Qatar Air Sports Committee twin otters, but there's one comes in, and then
Not
yeah, and they have two. I want to say brand new, but that was about 2-3 years ago, even four. Brand new twin otters, but we only can fly one at a time, and we have the new groups that was in Zephyr Hills also here. So there's too many people getting onto the plane. So today we only made two jumps, but we stopped early for a military meeting, and the planes disappeared. But tomorrow we hope to do 4 to 6 jumps, and that's kind of it in the day. But finish
that.
by 12. We finish by 12. There's nothing happens after 12. It gets hot. It gets to 30 degrees. Standing in the jumpsuits in the Qatar heat. So, and it's in November. It should be a bit cooler. I think it's still too hot.
Yeah, see, I'm on sweater and jeans already
Yeah,
by now. So in Florida, it's perfect weather now. By the way,
yeah.
Chris Kuhlmann, he is in the land at the moment. He's organizing some medium-sized groups there to fun jumpers. So
Send him my regards, please.
yeah, I will do that. It's the last day
Keep,
today, but the weather is here. The weather is becoming, why we live here actually. You
yeah.
know that
No,
the
no, November is the best time in the land. I always said the best month for me in the land was November.
Yep, it is. November, December gets a little cold, January too,
Yeah,
but but
January can be very cold.
it's still nice. You have the
Yeah.
very cold nights, you have it only for a few weeks the year. So 46 are the oh man, we we have 2 minutes. The Tigers and the Falcons, are they training in Qatar now too? And
No, no, it was on the agenda, but the Tigers, Aziz on the tail. I saw Hamid today on the drop zone, team captain, and Aziz has a sore hand, but they did a AFF instructors course, I think it
yeah,
was so they just come back, so they free now, so they will not train, thank goodness, because we don't have capacity. And the eight-ways just finished the eight-way Brit Nationals that they
the
did the
indoor,
eight-way
right?
in living. Yeah, and I think they're traveling back today or tomorrow.
Okay, but they will in the future they will not have to travel that much any longer, or will we still see them all the time? Which was nice, when you could meet
No,
them here actually.
we want to travel. They all want to travel. Even the bosses want us to travel. It's
Okay,
just in this November. It's a perfect time period, and also budget wise for them, they can finalize the budget for next year and everything. All the heads are here, and we plan for next year.
okay, all right, Gary. We have to come to the. If not, we're missing the goodbyes and the thank yous. I will do it, so I have to stop right here and do that before Mrs. Zoom. Um, um,
Cuts you off.
will be nasty again.
The
Someday it will
skeletons
say,
in the skeleton in the closet came out. Mrs.
yeah,
Zoom is gonna fire you.
Gary, thank you very much, man. Great talking to
Kurt,
you
thank you.
always. The
The same,
biggest,
man. Keep well.
the biggest four-way and eight-way and coaching expert on the planet at the moment. Niklas,
No, 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 no.
great to meet you. We will talk to
Good.
him hopefully very soon. I can't wait
Yes.
for his take. Gary, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Kurt.